So the whole idea of having these conversations was to sort of get friends together and talk about things that we all go through in life, and keep it relaxed, chill, and have conversation about things that matter to us, things that we've gone through in life. Maybe all three of us have one thing in common, which is we all here in Dubai and living here. And some of us are more new than others, but we all have the experience of being in Dubai and have gone through different sort of life situations, right? So the idea of the podcast is to sort of just reflect on that and talk about issues. So with that, I think both of you, Michael, let's kick it off with what we were talking about.
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting as well is like we both connected over business, but very quickly we went into much bigger topics than that. So we started talking about spirituality, purpose, desire, fear, all these big topics that I think really apply to everybody in the world now. You know, so like we've just been through a crazy time through COVID, and people have really started to think like, what am I doing with my life? You know, like I had that time off and I'm coming back out into the world, and like even us, you know, like we were talking like, how do we get out into the world more and spread messages? You know, like what is important in the world right now?
And so, especially making it a positive change for people to know that support is out there, and that it's a choice that you can make to turn things around into a positive. I think that would be a good message to give.
Yeah. I mean, talking about purpose, like, you know, each of us, you know, had different reasons for being in Dubai, right? So one of the things that I grappled with for the longest time was, why am I here? Because I moved here during COVID, and essentially it was because of COVID the family moved here. But fundamentally, I sort of grappled with the idea, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Is there a reason I'm here? And I realized after like 2 years of living here that the kind of time and space I had to get into things like spirituality, reflecting on my journey, myself, I would have never gotten that if I was back in India running my business, because it gave me that time and space to do that. And like, you know, Michael, you would have a different reason, like you had a calling for Dubai, right? I mean, which is very different than, let's say, reason what Priscilla, you would be here as well. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting why each of us sort of got here and how we got here.
Yeah, and one thing that we talked about earlier as well is like, we're all from very different backgrounds, and we've all sort of found these communities that are very like connected, you know, and we feel like, I've only known you guys like a few weeks, but I feel like you're my best friends almost already, you know, like we do all these things together. And there's something really magical, I think, about this city in that it is creating a new culture almost. You know, it's like a new way of being where we can see each other's points of views. You know, we're all from different spiritual backgrounds, we're from different business backgrounds, from different economic backgrounds, and yet we can all respect each other and see each other's perspectives. And actually that's one of the reasons that Dubai called me, because I wanted to find a place like that where you could literally create something new. You know, you weren't having to deal with a lot of cultural baggage. You know, we're from Europe. You know, our countries have been established. We've got a lot of baggage in those cultures. Like India's even older, right? You've got the Vedas from thousands and thousands of years ago. And this is brand new. Like this city is literally like a baby still, you know?
And I feel that people are very much here to grow. People are looking here for opportunities, and I feel the co-living with everybody, although, as you said, with all the different cultures, the different backgrounds, people are here with ambition, and we respect each other to do good. So, for example, if you want to set up a business here, then by collaborating, by discussing, it's a joy to see you succeed. And I think that concept is very vibrant here in Dubai, is sharing, but also uplifting each other and not feeling envy towards each other so much. Like, oh, okay, well, you cannot be successful because I'm not reaching those heights. It's actually really cool to see each individual thrive and maybe be part of that, maybe support that and be that small part in that person's life that you can make that difference with them.
Yeah, true. And I mean, one more thing that I realized, you know, like sort of taking a cue from what you were saying, Priscilla, is that also because Dubai is a place where there's so many different cultures, people from all over the world, they come and sort of live here, you also get a perspective of how things are done around the world. So that in sense sort of, educates you as well. You sort of start understanding that, okay, maybe I'm running a business, or maybe I'm looking at life in a certain way, but there are other ways of looking at the same things, and that you sort of naturally sort of pivot to here, because you're just meeting people from different backgrounds. Like Michael, you were saying, like each of us come from a different background, and I've met so many people in the last 2-3 years who have given me a different perspective of everything in life, from business to family life to personal relationships with friendships and everything. So that's kind of cool as well here, and very giving, very forthcoming, very helpful, very secure, safe. I think Dubai has all those elements that many of us would look at having from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, and I think because it's such an expat community, so the expats, you make family together because you don't have your family here. So the perspective of that setup is just different. You're just here to, I think, make deeper connections and have more of a support system as in the expat community. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm sure like people listening to this don't really know any of us. So it might be useful if like we just get to know each other a bit better.
Probably.
So like,
Sure.
do you want to start, Rahul? What's your background?
So I'm a second generation entrepreneur, family business from India, Calcutta, India, to be specific. And so my passion is in education. I've been running an education institution on behalf of the family for many, many years now. So that's really my passion from a professional perspective. But now sort of over the years, I've sort of gotten into investing as well. I do startup investments. I've done a few in India. I've done a few internationally in the US, Singapore, and in Dubai as well. And the whole idea of that for me was to really support entrepreneurs who have come up with ideas and innovation that can change the world, or their way of looking at things is different. So I that's been my investment strategy as well. So look at opportunities which can change something for the better and see how we can support them. So a bit about that, and I spent like a lot of time of mine talking to friends and people about spirituality, as you guys both know. That's really something I've discovered recently, and I've sort of gotten into it. So that's a little bit about me.
And I have to say, like, the more I find out about you, the more impressive you are. Like you say, like an education business. How many colleges have you got?
No, it's not about for me, the business is not about numbers, but it's about the value you create.
Yeah.
So it's the number of families you touch. So we have our main flagship business school in Calcutta, but for me, it's not whether I have 500 students or 1,000 students. For me, it's like each student is a family. And what happens in education is when you change a youngster's mindset, you're changing multiple generations, because he's going to become a father someday, he's going to have a child someday. So if you can educate people right, you're actually changing the community from a long-term perspective. So I look at it that way, in terms of it's a blessing that I have a business where I can create change for the future.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, awesome.
How about you, Priscilla? Do you want to
gosh.
talk a little bit about yourself?
Who am I? So, I call myself an entrepreneur because I keep seeing projects and opportunities all around me. And it varies in all fields. I can't keep to focus myself on one sector. So I just enjoy life too much. Let's put it that way. There's so much out there that can interest you, that you can educate yourself about. And the main thing for me is indeed make that difference in, even if, as you say, just one individual. Just bring positive impact. Now, I'm an incredible big animal lover. So I own pets myself. I've got 2 dogs, 2 golden retrievers, absolutely gorgeous. I have a horse, a Dutch warm blood, which I brought over from the Netherlands. I'm Dutch, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. And he's a dressage sport horse. And these, being around animals and being able to communicate is a big word, but to have that intense connection with animals has kept me grounded in so many ways. And they gave me a lot of inspiration and creativity, which I can bring back into the real world. And with that energy, I can spread that energy. They keep filling my cup, and I'll be able to spread and share my cup with everybody around me. And I do that through photography, Everybody that have in front of my lens, I want them to shine as bright as they can shine. So I want to get the best out of each individual. So that's my inspiration, is where can you make an impact and where can it be sustainable, and mainly all to see there is a bright future out there for everybody. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody is allowed to be them. Everybody is a creation of the bigger picture. And people should embrace that. And when they feel good within themselves, again, they can spread the love again. So for me, that's where I see my entrepreneurship, is making an impact wherever I can in a positive way.
Wow,
Amazing.
that's super inspiring. And we went to see the horses last week, and that was so inspiring.
What a treat it was.
And you do have like a gift of like connection with animals, which is really amazing.
Thank you.
And I think we've sort of lost that, a lot of us, like this connection with nature.
Yeah.
And it's really important.
Connection with nature, and even connection with simple things in life. Just us, just hanging out and watching you sort of play and train, Martin. I mean, it's trust me. Like when we were outside, we were like, man, she's such a natural to this, and I kept telling you got to do something with this, And I think, and it was like we spent 3-4 hours that morning, and it just went off pretty quickly,
Yeah.
And I think that's when you know that time was well spent, because we just couldn't tell, we spent so much time together. So yeah, it was. What about you, Martin? Not Martin. Sorry.
Martin's the horse.
That's so inspired by.
That's how
You're very connected to Martin.
That's how connected we feel to Martin now. Sorry, Michael. So you see that this is what Martin did to us.
Yeah.
This is what Martin did to us. So we're calling each other Martin.
He's actually a picture of him
That's
over there as well.
That's him. Yeah.
Oh, is that him?
He's
That's
a guest.
Martin,
He's
yeah.
one of the guests.
Wow.
You can't see this, but
Yeah.
there's a photo
Wow,
of
wonderful.
Martin.
Michael.
Yeah,
Your
so background, where do I start? I mean, I started off my career as a DJ, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I have done shows like this before where I presented back in the day. But my real sort of career started in AI. So I did computer science degree, went into AI before it was like even a thing, before it was cool, and started to realize like there's no, I was a very young guy. There's not many women in AI. So I thought, where can I meet the nice girls, So I got into branding and marketing and moved to London. And basically for a long time I did corporate marketing. So I worked for the big brands like Xbox in the UK, O2, Compare the Market was a very famous campaign in the UK.
That's a brilliant campaign.
With
Still to today, it's my favorite campaign.
I can tell you so many stories about that. That was supposed to be a 6-month campaign, and it's run for like 15 years almost now.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of the big brands, but I didn't feel comfortable. I was like, I reached everything I wanted in life. I was a managing director and I had the toys and everything, but just something didn't feel right. And I ended up reading a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek. I don't know if you read that, but one thing he promotes in there is this idea of mini retirements. This idea that, a lot of us work all our lives to save this money for a retirement. And then we get to retirement and we can't do anything with that money because our health's gone, our time's not available, all these things. So I just quit my job. I literally said, that's it, I'm quitting my job, I've retired. And for a while I did nothing, and that was amazing. And I'm really glad that in the middle of my life, I literally did nothing for a little while.
No.
Because it created a void, and it made me realise, well, what do you want to do? Like, what is your purpose? Like, what is something meaningful? And out of that, I created a marketing agency. And it's so funny, the words that you guys have said, because like our strapline, our company was called, it still is called Electric. And the motto is shine brighter, grow faster. So it's all about like literally how we can light up the world through marketing. And we made a very strong commitment to only work with, like you do with the startups, to only work with businesses that are having a positive impact on the world.
Sure.
And that was quite a big decision, because it means you have to turn down a lot of things that if it's not aligned with your values. But it was a great decision, and we've ended up working with some amazing clients who are doing really amazing things in the world. And I think what the bigger point for me was that it proved to myself and the marketing community that marketing doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, it's had a really bad name for so long, and I didn't like it. There's a famous American comedy sketch where, you know, basically if you're a marketing person, you're basically in bed with the devil, like you're an evil person, right? Bill Hicks. And that's not necessarily true. I think like marketing can have a really positive role in the world, but we have a big responsibility, you know, and I think that a lot of marketers understand that because they're smart people, and it sort of kills them inside to know that they're doing marketing that's damaging the planet. You know, it's getting people to consume things that they don't need. You know, it's driving this big consumer engine. So yeah, like I'm really happy that we are sort of hopefully becoming sort of like a lighthouse to say that you don't have to do that. You know, like if you really want to be an artist and you want to be creative and you want to put that out into the world in a commercial way, you don't have to align yourself with the bad people in the world. You can align yourself with the better people in the world who are looking to create a better future. And I moved to Dubai because I felt like this is where that brighter future is being really created. You know, like the minds, the people that you meet here, there's so many people who are looking to innovate and create a better future. Not just for Dubai, for beyond Dubai. And I think I'm so excited to be here. It's so exciting to meet people like you guys.
But when when you say about marketing being a good or a bad thing, it's kind of interesting because I was thinking, you know, one of the verticals of business we are in is also tech and AI. And we started working with this massive company out of the US on data annotation and you know, machine learning and stuff like that. And you know, we had 2,000 people working and essentially training algorithms. And if you look at the conversation people are having today on ChatGPT and how can AI benefit or harm the society, I guess there's two sides to every coin, provided there are some regulations and guidelines around it, because the technology and marketing have actually changed the world for the better as well. I mean, look at the way people are now getting more sensitive about sustainability and you know, less use of plastic and, you know, using things which are biodegradable and stuff. That's also coming because of things like marketing and people talking about it.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, you can use both technology and subject matter in a positive or a negative way. But it's just how you look at it, right? It's how
technology itself is neutral.
It's neutral,
it's how you use it.
True. So marketing as well. Like, I mean, look at, you know, in the US, the elections, I mean, marketing or campaigns, positive, they're meant to be neutral. But I guess the point is on leadership. I guess the point is on the purpose and the intention behind the purpose, right? And we were talking about purpose earlier, like, and I think fundamentally everything comes down to the intent behind any purpose. Each of us have a purpose in life, but if you understand the intent behind the purpose and what is that intent defined as, is it focused on your own self or is it focused on the larger picture of wanting to give back and make in the society a better place? And I think that changes the use of any technology or subject matter, I guess.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, like I'm sure you've had mentors. I've had mentors. We've all had mentors, right? And one of the biggest lessons for me was the more you focus on yourself, the more pain you have. And the more you focus on the world and humanity and giving back, like the better your quality of life will be and the better everybody's quality of life will be.
Yeah, but if you focus on yourself, like the pain is there. But I think if you can really go internal and reinvent yourself nearly out of this society that we're in, it's a rat race, it's go, go, go. These are the statuses that we need to achieve, all these things. But if you disconnect from that and you go and look into your inner self and you reground yourself, you go, as we said earlier, back to nature. And if you can stand for your beliefs, your values, you do feel that you can shine. And when you then can shine, then it's much easier to spread all of that. Absolutely. And that then has a much stronger effect than if you're pushing yourself to do it, because then you're not reaching the effect that you're supposed to, well how it will naturally happen. So then it's more of an effort. And when you really start with yourself, then it's effortless.
This is where we get into spirituality, isn't it? Because, you know, when you're in flow with your purpose, things do seem effortless. You know, the connections come together, the magic starts to happen, you know, and it isn't an effort anymore.
Yeah.
And the trick there would be to find your purpose, you need to first find yourself.
Yes.
Because if you don't find yourself, finding your purpose is going to be difficult. And I think that's one of the major challenges people have is we are so outward focused and not inward. So the moment we turn inward and really figure out who we are, what we're passionate about, and what is our thereby purpose in life, I think you start traveling the path of good. And I think finding yourself is the most important ingredient there as well from a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, because Michael, that's why you made the decision to set up your marketing in such a way that you want to make a difference and make it sustainable. If you didn't take that break and if you didn't sit with yourself, you would have not come with this concept. You would have kept going in that rat race.
Totally, yeah. Yeah.
And
You're
now
right. Having that time out and creating that space and the void is a really important part of life.
True.
And you know, it's interesting, like a lot of the major religions like understand this and they built it into their lifestyle. So like, for example, Christianity, you know, there was in the Bible, God worked for 6 days and then he rested for the seventh day. And so many times in life we're just chasing. You know, we're constantly like working.
True.
But you need that downtime to reflect and to rest. And when we get that, that's when we start to connect with our purpose. I feel like, you know, you need that space to create that.
Same for Rahul, right? You came to Dubai because in India you would never have that space to...
True. And to be honest, when I moved here as well, for the longest time, I would have these conversations with my parents. I'm like, and Janine as well. I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And then when I reflect back today, I'm like, wow, I would have never had that time to sort of understand myself, travel the journey on spirituality, meet amazing people if I was living in India. Maybe that was the reason I got here, which made me wiser, which sort of also helped me travel my own journey. So now I have the business, but at the same time, I think I've evolved as well as an individual. And I think, so there is, I always say there's a reason for everything in life, right? The trouble is when we start questioning the reason. And questioning the God's plan or whatever, the divinity's plan. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? But yeah, for me, it was kind of a very interesting, I look at it today and I find a lot of sense in it. And then what I did when I moved here initially. So yeah, it's very, very different. But the question is, like, when you look at, again, going back to what we spoke about a bit earlier about pain. And so the question is, what's the trigger? Or the pain, what's the pain point of pain? Where does pain stem from? Is it stemming from experiences? Is it stemming from expectations? Or fundamentally, is it stemming from your thoughts, which actually creates both the expectation and the experience, right? So because if pain is a byproduct of your thought, then the only thing you need to work on is your thought. Because if you work on your thought, you can sort of indirectly sort of have control over your pain.
But there's also a bigger question there as well, like, what is the purpose of pain? Because, like, one definition of pain is pain, how can I describe it? Pain interrupts you experiencing the beauty of life.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you experience pain, you can't really appreciate life for the amazing beauty it has. So pain can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be mental. Like, there's lots of ways you can experience pain, right? But usually there is a reason behind it. That pain has stemmed from something.
Correct.
And it's basically saying, I'm going to interrupt you because you need to do something. You need to change something. You need to learn something. Right?
Sort of puts you back on your track, I guess. Your natural track.
Yeah. So, like, for example, like, one massive pandemic we have at the moment is the avoidance of pain, right? So imagine, like, you know, you've just been through a breakup or something like that. What do? You might go and drink. You know, you might have a drink to numb the pain. You know, you get a toothache, you have a painkiller to numb the pain. But just imagine if you're in a building and the fire alarms are going off and there's a fire and we go, okay, well, let's just switch the fire alarms off. Yeah. Everybody burns to death, right? So, like, you can't just numb the pain all the time. You know, if we avoid it all the time, we can never learn, we can never grow. So,
interesting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what if we embrace the pain? What if we say, okay, what are you trying to teach me?
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason that you're interrupting me and the alarm bell keeps going off. What are you trying to tell me here?
True.
You know?
Yeah, they always say the comfort zone is where you don't grow.
Yeah,
So and the
exactly.
pain is outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
That pain, fear, the
uncomfortableness.
uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And do you dare to take that challenge
Yeah.
and take the jump on the beauty that's going to lie behind that?
Yeah. And then you get to a point where you appreciate the pain because the pain actually teaches you.
Yeah.
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 You know?
Same thing with fear, I guess. I mean, they go hand in hand because if people didn't have fear, there would be no creation in some ways, right? Because what happens is when you're competing in the world, you're creating because somewhere down the line you're fearful that, okay, he's going to outscore me, so I better build something better.
Yeah.
Right? And some of it from a pure competition perspective, I mean, I'm just generalizing this, but I'm just saying there would be an element of fear which triggers innovation and creativity as well.
Yeah.
Competition as well.
Well, I think like my belief is definitely that every emotion is important.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of times we avoid certain emotions because they're bad. You know, so like no fear. That's a big thing. Like no fear.
Yeah.
Right. But fear's there for a reason. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna literally lean over a building that's, you know, one of these huge skyscrapers in Dubai,
Yeah.
like there's a reason you should be scared,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're not supposed to lean
Do that,
over.
yeah,
You could
yeah,
die,
sure,
right?
sure.
And it's the same with like emotions like anger. Like anger gets a really bad press at the moment, but sometimes like if you see a total injustice in the world, I mean, we deal with a lot of big cases where people have had some horrific things happen to them, and you know our clients, our lawyer clients, will go after the perpetrators. You should be angry. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You should be angry that there's injustice in the world. If you're not getting angry, there's something like missing from you. Do you know what I mean? Because that anger can then push you to do something about it. It can take action, you know. So for me, like every emotion has an important place. If you misuse them, obviously if you get angry and you just start punching people,
Exactly. I was
that's
just gonna say
not a
that.
great reaction, you know. And we were also talking earlier about reactions, weren't we? Like how you, and every emotion is just an energy in motion, and how we then bring that out into the world is important, because that's consciously we decide how to manifest that into the world. But the actual emotions are all there for a reason, every single one of them.
I mean, you know, you guys have met Sridharan, right? So one of the things he talks about all the time is have emotions, but don't become emotional. I think the problem is when people become emotional, to enjoy all the emotions or to enjoy possessions is very good. But if you become possessive and if you become emotional, I think that's where sort of you start crossing the line and lose control.
You become attached to the emotion.
You become attached to things, and
because actually an emotion goes through your body very quickly.
very quickly, yeah.
So
Right.
fast.
But then what happens is our brain latches onto it.
Latches onto
so
it.
you know, you might be sad for a moment, you know, so this sadness passes through you, and what that is, it's just a lack of energy that's coming through you. But then if you go, I am sad, that becomes a concept, and then you hold on to that and it becomes part of your identity.
Yeah.
And then you become a sad person forever. And it's like, why did I do that? You know, you don't.
Yeah.
That's the mind at work there, not the emotions.
Yeah, and this is where, you know, people that have the concept and understand the concept to pull themselves out of that emotion and change that energy into something positive forwardness. I think that's where it's exciting for people that know how to do that, to be able to help people that don't know how to do that yet. And as long as people start to pinpoint it, start to identify themselves with it, and acknowledge that they have this, I don't know if you want to call it a syndrome, because that might be a whole another setup, but just realizing it, that's step one. And then with help or with listening to podcasts like this or getting coaches, that's amazing that you're willing to make that change. And by wanting to make that change, things will start happening for you. And it's like a fire. From one thing comes to the next. It's not just you as a person, but it will happen to the person next to you because they're seeing the change in you. So it's
True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's almost like, if you break that down, there's 3 stages to it. So there's the initial awareness.
Yeah.
So like just being aware of like the energy that's coming through you.
Yeah.
The next thing is acknowledgement. So you have to bring it out into the world. You have to acknowledge it to yourself. You have to share it. And then the third one, and this is very interesting, is acceptance. And this is where it's a bit strange because, you know, a lot of times you accept, but you want to do something about it, you know. So you're not really accepting it.
Yeah.
You're saying, actually, I want to change it. but there's a real magic in actually just accepting it without wanting to change it as well.
Explain.
Explain.
Yeah.
Okay. So for example, like say you become aware that you have some kind of emotion going through you. So it could be like you are very anxious about something that may or may not happen in the future.
Yeah.
Right. So you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And then you say, hey, Michael, Rahul, like, I'm feeling anxious. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we feel that, you know. Now, we could jump in all of a sudden and go, you know what you should do? Why don't you do this? You know what worked for me? You know, and we try and solve that for you.
True, yeah.
Which could make you even more anxious. Or we could just be with you and we could say, you know, yeah, like, I'm experiencing that with you. And just be with it. And instead of wanting to change it instantly, we just allow you to experience that fully and we experience it with you.
Because you then find a way yourself to come out of it.
Yeah, and also you experience it. Like, so life isn't about avoiding these bad experiences. It's about fully experiencing everything. And when you experience it, try it. Like, there's a magical energy that comes in and it just basically goes, okay, now I've experienced that. And a lot of times the charge associated with the anxiety at that point will just pass.
Disappear again.
It just disappears.
Yeah, true.
So it's like an effortless way to experience it and not need to change it.
But then for people who stay in that zone, because some people just go into this vicious circle and they stay angry, they stay drinking because they keep wanting to numb, or they stay in the anxiety and they don't know how to get themselves out of that.
Though. But it's because they're not actually aware and accepting where they're at.
They're not accepting.
Yeah.
So the only way you can the three things you mentioned, Michael, these are the three ways of coming into the present, right? So, and you realize when you're in the present, you can't do a damn about the past.
Yeah.
Because it's memory.
Yeah.
And the future is an illusion. So therefore, by accepting, by acknowledging it, you're sort of bringing yourself in the present, right? And you are also telling yourself, I'm anxious right now, but honestly, can I do anything about it? You know, and maybe if you can't, then why are you going through that emotion? Embrace it, acknowledge it, but don't live it.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because by being in the present, you ask yourself the question, okay, I have the anxiety attack, for example. But in this second, like we're sitting here now doing this talk, in this split second, do I have that problem? 90% of the answer is no.
You don't,
It's
You
imagined.
actually don't.
It's something
So
that
it's
your
your
mind
brain.
is creating, yeah.
And when you can disconnect that, it's actually like, oh, actually, I don't have that problem right now. So I don't need to do problem solving right now because I don't have the issue now.
Yeah. Because it's in the future, it's an imagined future.
Correct. So, but even if you had that in the present, I'll give you an example of it. For example, one is what Michael is saying, that if it's future-led, then it's a creation, and past is a memory, right? But let's say you are getting an anxiety attack right now. And I used to go through anxiety attacks all the time, like a few years ago. And I used to think that, I'm going to, like, my heart is going to come out because, I have a historic issue with heart. I realized that stress would actually trigger the anxiety to go even higher.
Yeah.
So instead, what I learned to do was, when I used to get these anxiety attacks, because they were triggered by whatever, the imbalances in the body and stuff like that, and I used to go somewhere quiet, lie down, drink water, tell myself, okay, this is going to pass, because everything in life is impermanent. If it's crazy, then there are people around me to help me out. But if it's not, unnecessarily, why am I pushing myself to experience an emotion at the highest level when it's not meant for that?
Yeah.
And the same situation, you start dealing with it differently. And one thing that helped me a lot there was breathing. See, what happens is, whenever you're in a situation where you're anxious, you're stressed out, you're angry, you will see your breath changes. The pace of your breathing changes. So if you can use your mind and your intellect as a combination to calm your breathing down, things will calm down automatically around you. And so breathing is so important to manage some extreme emotions whenever you go through them.
Yeah.
That's what I use, actually.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Like, every tradition goes to the breath.
Yeah.
Like, and it's that simple. So
That
like,
simple.
even the like modern day coaches, like, you know, Tony Robbins, for example, you go to a Tony Robbins event, a lot of that event is about breathing.
Yeah.
It's literally like, look at your posture. Like, are you closed up like this? Are you doing shallow breathing? Or is your posture open? Are you doing deep breathing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Try it. Like, just try doing a deep breath now, and all your body just relaxes. You become a different person,
Yeah.
a completely
Yeah.
different person,
Yeah.
just by changing the breath.
Yeah.
I mean, breath work is very
because
powerful.
breathing is something that connects the outside world with the inside world. That's the bridge. So by observing your breathing, you can tell a lot about what's going on outside you, which is impacting you, and what's going on inside you as well. So those who like practice serious meditation, they use breathing as a technique, you know, to actually cure a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest. So yeah, it's an important tool. It's an important tool. Interesting.
It's interesting when we were with the horses last week as well, because there was a real sense of calmness, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And one thing that maybe you can talk about is like how horses feel like humans. There's a connection between us.
Oh, so much. Where do I start? So basically, a horse can feel your heart rate already from quite a couple of meters away. So even the connection, it's an emotional connection. It's an energy connection that they're very tuned in with, and the heart rate is very obvious. So even if you're doing training on the ground next to the horse or on the horse, it's very interesting if you start to get into each other's energy. And actually, I would like to say that we had that. We were standing talking, and Martin just came out of his stable to stand in our circle.
True.
And you could feel the whole energy.
And this is a big
flowing.
horse, right?
Oh, he's huge.
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
He's huge. He's like a dinosaur, you know.
Yeah.
And he just brought his head down, and he just felt the energy. And the three of us, well, actually four of us, including Martin, you could feel that energy flowing through all of us. And I bet you, if we would have checked our heart rate, I'm guaranteeing you we would all be on the same heart rate.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And do you
Yes.
think like we were breathing similarly as well,
Yeah,
weren't we? We
everything,
were all very
yeah.
calm, slow breathing.
Everything fell into like a puzzle. So all our breathing was calm, all our energies were calm, and our heart rates were calm. And this is very unique to get that intense connection. But that is when you're there in the present. We were just really enjoying the moment, which was the beauty of it.
So horses can sense energy from
gosh.
far off.
Yeah.
Like you're saying that was something which was unique. I remember you mentioned that then as well. Like, you know, and so for horses, when you say we're similar heartbeat, do they have the same rhythm as humans, or do they beat differently? Do we know that?
Actually, I think they beat the same way.
The same way.
Yeah, because I did heart rate training
Yeah.
on the horse. So sometimes an exercise that you think is very intense on the horse is actually not intense and more intense on you. So you can see the differences in exercises, what's more intense for the rider and more intense for the horse. But if you are in the same flow, you are on the same heart rate. So the beat
There's
is
a
the
connection.
same. There's a
It's really-
connection.
yeah.
Yeah, and the beat is the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Remember we were talking about how also their diet, you know, how they eat like hay, and literally they're running like 20 times faster than any person that we know of. Like, how do they do that? Like, literally.
On such basic needs. But honestly, I don't know if you've ever nearly gone back to a water diet. I mean, you just explained when you need to calm down and thin your blood out, you need to drink your water.
Water, yeah.
Now, I've been through a very stressful situation and I wasn't hungry. I could not eat. The only thing I could do was drink water. And you function actually extremely well on it. You're clear in your mind. Your body is energetic. So it's actually very purifying. So you don't need very much. And same for horses. They don't need much as long as they have their very basics.
That's
Then
really
they're already
interesting.
good.
There's like a few ways that I like to go with this, but I want to just like come back to what you said before about like the energetic connection between animals and humans. I mean, I feel like humans have this as well. Like, so we can really feel each other's energy. And yet, a lot of times we don't believe that. You know, it's like woo-woo, and that's just weird. And like, quantum physics is telling us that actually it's true.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think about that?
Everything in life is energy. I'm sorry to say. It's just like everything. So body to body, but also the world is giving off an energy.
Yeah.
So there's vibrations, there's frequencies, and depending how far you're spiritually, you can sense more and more and more of this.
True.
So yeah, I believe everything is energy.
Yeah.
Because how can you be, for example, here in Dubai and be with somebody in the States and feel the vibration from each other? How does that work?
Yeah, totally.
Well, you're on the other side of the world with each other.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right?
No, absolutely. And, you know, for like somebody like me who has a long distance marriage
Yeah.
with Janine living in South Africa, if a situation goes through in our lives, I mean, you know, I feel the pain or the pleasure the same way if she's experiencing something which is happy for her or something sad for her. So I think that, to your point,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just, energy is actually universal, and that's how two souls or divinity or however you want to call it connect.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I think, and this is something I've been practicing lately, is like be very mindful of the people that actually you surround yourself with and share your energy, because you do feed off the person directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
So it sort of adds to it as well, and figure out ways to shield yourself when you can, if you're in a situation which is not conducive to you. I don't think there's a negative energy or a positive
No.
energy. I think there are different
lack
levels
of
of
energy.
energy.
Different
Yeah,
vibrations.
Just lack of energy and
I
this.
very much agree with
But
you. on that.
Because if you think about it, like the three of us, we
Yeah.
are like bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
It's like we're such high vibration. It's like
the coffee.
no, it's not the
It's not
coffee.
the coffee. No.
It's like, where were you guys all this while?
Yeah.
Where were you
We're
guys?
like high, you know. It's like a proper
Yeah.
drug.
You know, I think for me, like, one thing I would say, like, because
Yeah.
I totally agree, like, you know, there's this principle of you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with most,
True.
and I totally agree with that. I do also think there's like a responsibility for us to work with people who aren't necessarily high energy, you know, because like, it's like lights, isn't it? You know, when you bring light into darkness, like it lights everything up.
Yeah.
So it depends where you're at. So like, if you're mentoring people, like I'm sure you mentor
Yeah,
people who are
yeah.
like, they're very low energy sometimes, you know, and you know that it's your responsibility to bring them up.
Sure.
And I'm sure you'll work
Oh,
with people like
absolutely.
that as well. And I definitely work with people like that. And part of me is not saying like you need to remove yourself from them. It's more like actually they really need you. Do you know what I mean? And like they need your energy right now.
Yeah.
And that can be draining, but it's also something I think is like important to do that when we can.
So, you know, absolutely right. And I've had experiences with people where I have worked with them or they have worked with me, depending on the situation, where one of us is at a higher or lower level, and it's been a positive sort of change for me or the person. And I've been in a situation where we've worked and it's just been a washout.
Yeah.
The difference, the difference.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Yeah, the difference is, I've realized that the difference is that the person that you're exchanging your energy with should be willing to receive it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because if you're not
Yes.
open to receiving the energy,
Yes.
if you're just blocked,
Yeah.
then you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether you're on the higher level or lower level. If you're having a conversation with a person who's open, yes, let's share this, let's
Yeah.
understand. Then I think you don't even get drained, because then you're exchanging. It's just you
Yeah.
coming together up. But if the person is mentally blocked and you're just talking to them for hours,
Yeah.
you're just draining yourself.
Yeah.
You're not exchanging anything.
That's really interesting. 'Cause I worked with a coach a few years ago, and the first thing she did with me was she made me understand that abundance
Yeah.
is about being able to receive.
Mm.
And there's so much in life where we're conditioned just to like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
You know. So like, someone gives you a compliment, you're like, oh no, that's not me. I can't take that. You know. And all the time, all you're doing is pushing positive energy away from you.
Yeah.
And at some point, the universe goes, okay, you don't want it then. So it stops giving you that.
Yep.
Whereas if you say, okay, I accept, thank you, I accept that with grace, the universe wants to give you things.
Yeah.
The universe is abundant. Like we
Yes.
live in this beautiful abundant world.
Yeah.
But if we say no all the time, we block the energy flow. You know.
True.
And
So
that-
it's really interesting that you say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that's exactly the growth that people stop themselves from having.
Yeah.
Either they don't find themselves worthy or whatever the reasons
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
they should feel that it's okay to embrace and to accept that you're allowed to feel good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that I've noticed around me, especially during COVID. People blocked themselves and they don't know what to do with themselves anymore, and they kind of feel like, well, what am I allowed to feel and which direction I'm allowed to go? And I think that is where people need to open up again and feel like, okay, it's okay to get out of the situation and make a difference again in the world.
Yeah.
So again, finding their purpose.
Yeah, and in
Does that
those
make sense?
in those situations, to Michael's point, that's when you need well-wishers and friends around you,
Yeah.
because you're actually ready to receive and exchange and share. And if you have people with a higher level of energy around you, it's easier for you to sort of travel.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we all go through these highs and lows. I mean,
Yeah.
all of us
For
in
sure.
different situations in our life. We are always. I'm either at a low right now in some point of my life, or at a high in another point.
Yeah.
But I'm a wave, like just like all of us.
Yeah.
We are basically energy.
We're all a vibrational
We
wave.
are a
Everything's a
vibration.
vibrational
Yeah.
wave.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people are not alone. I think that's very important to know. They're not alone. They're not different to us or to anybody else. They're not different to their neighbor. It's just, again, their perspective, and are they willing to accept and embrace?
Yeah, it's so. I was coaching someone over the weekend, and this is a very smart, intelligent person who's setting up a new business and very accomplished. And all that was going through her mind was, I'm not good enough. And I remember 6 years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and there was 13,000 people in the room, and we were asked, like, what is the thing that, like, worries you the most? And everybody in the room, at least 99% of the room, when he said, stand up if you feel like you're not good enough to be loved, everybody stood up.
Wow.
So, like, this is a universal condition that we all have. You know,
Yeah.
we all feel like we're not good enough in some way.
Yeah.
And we all think that we're the only person who feels like that. But we're not. Everybody feels like that.
Yeah. Nobody's alone on that one.
Yeah. I mean, even, like, coming here today, like, you know, you challenged us to this, didn't you? You
Yeah.
said, like, let's get our message out there more. Like, let's talk, let's share. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do a podcast. You know, like, and you've got these little voices in your head going, hey, what are you going to say? You know, like, what if you've got nothing to say?
Yeah.
What if it's
You're
not
right,
relevant?
right.
You know?
And sometimes when you push yourself in situations where you don't know what you're going to say or do, you discover yourself. You know, you figure out a part of you that comes out, because I think the creativity starts when you're most vulnerable, because you know you feel like it's do or die and survival, and when you're in that phase of your life, you start to build and create. So I think that there's a value to that as well. So I think something like this, where each of us have never done this before, and it's exciting because I think we've spoken for a bit, I think, and we just don't know how much
About
time.
50 minutes.
Can you imagine that? Would we have imagined that we would have done this? No. So, but again, like circling back to like the starting point, as we get closer to an hour, like the purpose. I think we spoke about purpose, pain, fear. What does purpose mean for each of you? Like, how would you look at defining purpose? Because this is something a lot of us have been confused with in our life. Like, what's the purpose in your life? How do you actually create a definition for it?
So,
Or is there one? I don't know.
yeah, so if I can bring that up for myself first. Again, the bit of I'm not good enough was a huge trigger for me. And what have you achieved in life?
Yeah.
Where are you at now? I've just gone through something really huge in my life that has thrown everything upside down. And then you're completely lost and think, okay, now what?
Yeah.
So trying to embrace that and think, okay, you know what? Now I've got a complete white piece of paper in front of me. It's completely blank. I have a fresh start. And what am I going to do with it? And then you're listening to all these podcasts. You're listening to all these YouTubes. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
You're trying to get inspiration. You get all these inspirational quotes, and you're trying to live them and embrace all the how do you say it, the self-talk,
Positive thinking.
the positive
yeah.
thinking. So you're trying to soak everything up, but still you need to look inwards and say, okay, what is your purpose then? And the first thing for me personally was like, okay, what have I achieved? What do I want to do at work? And I need to build a multinational and be CEO of a massive company and make a difference that way. But is that purpose? And then I kept writing things down and journaling a bit for myself, and then looking like, you know what? Actually, my purpose is just to shine and make that like an oil mark. So if I can smile and share my brightness, my light that I have in me, and I can ignite that light in somebody else, and that can have a ripple effect, actually, I think that's my purpose. My purpose is to shine.
I love that.
Oh, beautiful.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's really good that you've figured that out, because I think purpose is such like a big word these days. We have like purpose-driven organizations, and a lot of people give lip service to purpose. But what is it? And a lot of people get confused because they think it's some big grand thing. Like I have to be the CEO, and I suffer from this. It's like, I have to be the CEO. I talk to you, and like you have a big organization, family business, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like I'm nowhere near that. Do you know what I mean? And yet, like, our business has a purpose. So as an entity, its purpose is to positively impact as many people as possible and give them hope. It's like hope is a big thing for us. And I'm sure like you have a similar kind of thing. Your father didn't he?
Yes,
saying like
absolutely.
that. At the ordinary
People can do extraordinary things.
Yeah, exactly.
And taking people to the next level. Yeah, these are the two like visions we had. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think purpose, like the businesses can be vehicles for our purpose, which is amazing. For bringing that energy into this reality, right?
Yeah.
But purpose can be a tiny thing. So it could be like literally like, I want to light people up. And you can do that by literally smiling at one person every day. That can change their lives. Like, when I lived in London, there's so many lonely people in London. It's one of the biggest cities in the world, and people feel isolated and depressed and alone. And if you smile at someone, it can make their day because they feel acknowledged and recognised.
Yeah.
And it can be that simple, right? Also, it can be really big. It could be something really big. It could be like, I have a unique gift that I want to bring to the world. So like you have an amazing gift around like connecting with nature and horses and animals, and you also have this brightness about you, So there's that. And another way that I've seen people look at this, and I find this really interesting, is your purpose in life is to be your true authentic self.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's actually very hard because we're conditioned to like have to be a good boy or a good girl or not be about, and we follow all the rules, and we want to impress people by having these big, we want to be accepted, and all of a sudden you're not you anymore. You're like what everybody else wants you to be. Yeah. So the more authentic you can be, that can be like a purpose for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's all these different ways to look at it, but my mentor said something very important, and he said, you always have to have a big vision for the future, right? And I said to him, well, what is that? How do you do that? And he went, it doesn't matter, make one up, right? Yeah. Because having anything is better than having nothing.
Okay.
And that's so important. Like if we don't have a shining star that we're moving towards, how can I describe it? A vision of the future, that's a positive vision of the future. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, that allows anything to happen. Do you know what I mean? This focuses us. It allows us to move towards something. When you talk about fear's moving away from something. Yeah. But what are you moving towards? You need to be moving towards something. So for me, purpose is a big subject, and you can make it as big or as small as you want. Yeah.
True.
So what's your purpose is then?
So my purpose, interestingly, and I had a vision of this last year, and this is the reason I'm here, and it was 2 words, and it was unite people.
Nice.
So I don't know, that literally just came to me in a vision, and it said, your job in this planet is to help unite people.
Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I guess, so for me, the way I looked at purpose, and this is something I grappled with for the longest time, was, and I've concluded that is to live with compassion, love and gratitude consciously. And I think if you're living with compassion and love and gratitude consciously, you're always in the moment. You are thankful for everything. You are able to create anything. And you are able to live your true authentic self. So and I think somewhere down the line, universally, that's the purpose we all have. That no matter which profession we come from, no matter what background we come from, if we can do whatever we are doing with love and compassion and gratitude, and we do that consciously, we remind ourselves to say, like, we have to be loving, compassionate, and full of gratitude. I think fundamentally, universally, all of us come in the moment of living who we are truly. And I think the more we can do that, the more fruitful our journey in this life is going to be. Because we'll really enjoy who we are, as opposed to being driven completely by our mind and thoughts. So I think for me, and that's a hard play, I mean, it's a hard one to sort of practice, but if you can remind yourself to be grateful and loving, you're, I think, coming back to your purpose, like, what you do with animals and what you do, with your purpose of running a marketing company to create an impact, but you're doing it consciously because you want to create, you're compassionate, you want to create something to leave behind. That feeds into your purpose as a human being. And I think that's wonderful.
And it's interesting, like, because if you are stuck for this, like, you can go back to the texts, so, like, you can go to the Bible, you can go to the Quran, you can go to the Vedas, like, and they all tell you, like, they all give you clues to this as well. So, like, in Genesis, it talks about God created man and he wanted him to work in the Garden of Eden and keep it good, right? So, like, if you think about, like, what we're all doing here, like, you want to invest in things that make the world a better place.
Correct.
I want to work with companies that make the world a better place. You want to, like, work with nature and
bring the best out of people.
Exactly. And we all are custodians of this planet. Like, I have children, like, you have the horses, you have your foundations, and we all want to leave a legacy of having a place that we're proud of to pass on to other people, right? So I think, like, the texts, the sacred texts also give us clues to this. So if you have no idea what your purpose is, then there's a few, like, pointers, go and explore a few of those and see if they resonate.
Perfect. Leave the world a better place than what you inherited.
Absolutely.
And that's about it.
That would be, if we could all do that, what an amazing world we'd have. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, what a great
I think that's
conversation.
actually really good to
Should we wrap up there?
to wrap it up there,
wonderful,
because I think if we start any other subject, we'll be in air for another couple of hours. So I guess we have to give some food for thought for the listeners and come back with another great discussion. I'd say.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll be distributing this in different places, so keep your eyes open for this. We can put our different tags and profiles underneath.
So and if people have questions or if they want to tag in of what they'd like to have discussed, I think it would be great to make it a bit more interactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's most importantly, it's three friends sitting together and having an afternoon conversation, which is what makes it amazing. And I really truly wish that more friends around the world can get to do this, because the purpose of kicking off something like that was to have normal conversations, but just have them recorded and shared so that people can learn from each other around the world. So that's the whole.
We're all going through the same things, aren't we? So it's nice to share.
Cool.
So awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.